Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm just going to wait for you guys to trickle in. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Um, Welcome for those of you who were in the line of sight during Hurricane Helen. I hope you made it out okay. And hopefully the flooding, flash flood, and all that wasn't too much, with not too much damages. We here were okay, thanks to God. I mean, our kids' school was, flooded, the field, so they're out of school, but they're back in school. So grateful for that. But good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Independence Day to my Nigerians on the live. If you're Nigerian, put your flag and fly your flag today and be proud of our country. Um, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Aisha Chidole. I'm an immigration lawyer and I present clients all over the United States with their family and humanitarian-based immigration. I handle marriage-based cases, VAWA cases, trafficking cases, which are T visas, U visas, which are those who are victims of serious crime, naturalization. Yes, let me see some of those Nigerian flags. Hi, Steph. Hi, Voki Oribo, Anosike Chika. Happy Independence Day to you guys. Hope you guys have some nice jollof fries, and dodo today, or some unkobi, or like goat meat, something good, to definitely celebrate today. Thank you, Dorothy. I appreciate that. Anywho, I mean, of course, with every country and as citizens of many places, I'm sure everyone, there are things that you would wish that you would change, about your country, which, of course, I always feel that way about Nigeria, but I'm very, very proud every day to be Nigerian. I'm very, very proud that even though I was born in this country, I had the privilege of being raised in Nigeria and, bringing a different perspective, and can, teach my children about our culture and, where we're from and, what they have to be proud of and, and always to constantly be living the dream that my ancestors wished, they had lived. So, I'm very happy today, as a Nigerian American, to be a Nigerian and an American and to be able to celebrate the best of both worlds. Okay. Let's jump right into it. So if you guys have any immigration questions, just start writing them in the comments. For those of you on YouTube, good morning. Good morning, here I'm from Baltimore. Cleopatra says, can't stop bragging about your service. Thank you so much, Cleopatra. Tracy says, favorite law firm ever. Thank you. And Amiable on YouTube, good morning as well. Our phone number here is 407-995-6. What am I forgetting our phone number? 6567. So 407-995-6567. You can also send a WhatsApp to 404-333-8751. Our number is going through on the ticker on the bottom. If you're on Instagram, phone number is right there in the link. So once you get off the live, you can just click the link right in the bio and you can definitely call us. So somebody asked how much our consultations are. Consultations are $150. And just, as an aside, a consultation could either be with myself or one of the attorneys that work at my firm. I'm telling you guys, it really doesn't matter who you consult with. I've heard people say because I wasn't the one doing the consult that they weren't sure if this was a scam or a real law firm. Our records and reputation speak for themselves. You can independently verify any of the attorneys who work here. But because I'm one person and one physical human being, I am not able to do every single consult. So sometimes, you might be scheduled with Attorney Mindy or Stacy or, Chidera, Attorney Tony. We have, other attorneys that work here who are very much capable. Attorney Tony was a former USCIS officer, for goodness sake, and, worked in, also immigration court. So she's very knowledgeable, and we have very knowledgeable attorneys here, and any of our clients can attest to this. So please, even if you don't get me in a consult, you're still getting the best consult. Believe it or not, every single case goes through me, no matter who starts the case or who consults. I will still review every single application, make changes, make suggestions before they go out. So, we work in a collaborative environment here and work as a team, because we know that as human beings, sometimes you need a village to get the work done. Okay. Agnes Paul says, do you give free consultations to first timers? No, we don't give free consultations. Our consultations, we are really well thought out, and we really spend time understanding your immigration history and trying to basically go through different things that you're eligible for. When we finish those consults, we're sending you PDFs of, the process and timeline, and some of the required documents and what to expect. And so, for that, we do charge for our time. So, I do hope you'll consider consulting with us and just looking at it as a small investment to your future. My friend has a pending VAWA. She's not legally divorced with her abusive husband, but separated 1.5 years ago. Now she is pregnant with another guy. Will it affect her VAWA case? Junior, so no, it's not going to affect her VAWA case, even if she has another child. It's kind of an unrealistic expectation to say that, if you've been abused, you can never date anybody else, or you cannot have children. So that will not affect her case. She should not lie about it in her I-485. If, let's say, she has an interview for the I-485, she should just amend it and include that child in the application, so it doesn't affect her, during naturalization in any way. That being said, she cannot remarry. She can date, she can have a child, but she cannot remarry someone else while her VAWA case is pending. She or he has to wait for them to make a decision on the case. Okay. Michael says, please write the numbers so we can copy it. It's literally on the screen. Do you see this pink thing scrolling through like this? That's the phone number. So hopefully you can see it I see you're commenting from Facebook, so you should be able to see it. Okay. All right, let me take some questions on Instagram. Okay. I don't know if this person is this commenting to me? Is it possible to have an N400 scheduled for next week, and a notice has been sent out, but now I tracked my case online and it's saying actively reviewing? I'm confused. I'm confused by a question as well. However, a notice being sent doesn't mean or doesn't stop them from reviewing their case. Your focus should just be on what you receive. If you've not received a notice, then you don't have a notice. If you get a notice, attend the interview. If you get a notice that is after the interview, then, as long as you have documentation and proof that you received it after the interview, then, they will reschedule you. That being said, right now, what your focus should be on, instead of just, stressing yourself out with what you cannot control in the portal, is just going to make sure that you understand the, that you're able to, that you've practiced basically the civics questions. I said the civics, the civics questions, make sure you've practiced it and that you're ready to ace that test, and just review your application again. Make sure there's nothing in your application that could potentially make you ineligible. So that's where I would focus on as you wait on that, interview notice. Okay. What are the requirements to apply for VAWA? Does emotional and psychological abuse count? This is a good question. All right, let me answer the question. So what are the requirements for VAWA? Let's first start with what is VAWA. For those of you who are new or joining the first time, VAWA is basically a law in the United States and with the United States immigration as well that allows victims of abuse by certain parties, which I'm going to go into in a second, obtain a 10-year green card. The people that it allows would be spouses of U.S. citizens and green card holders who have been abused by their spouses, children of U.S. citizens or green card holders, children who are under the age of 21, And then if you're over the age of 21, but under the age of 25, you might have a limited exception where you can still apply if you can prove the reason for your lateness is because of the abuse. And then it also allows parents of US citizens who are over the age of 21. So you see here with the parents filing for VAWA, it must be for a US, based on a US citizen child who's over the age of 21 that has been abusive to the parent. So those are the core requirements for VAWA, right? The second thing is with the marriage-based case, you need to show cohabitation. You need to show that you and your spouse lived together at some point. There is no specific requirement of timeline of how long you've lived together. There is no requirement that you're still married when you apply. However, if you're no longer married, you have to have submitted that application before the second year anniversary of that divorce. Okay. The other requirement is that you have to be a person of good moral character, and you have to show that you have a clean criminal record in the past 3 years, or at least you don't have any crimes of moral turpitude. And then, of course, finally, they want to know that you have a good faith marriage. This is a genuine marriage, and that you are free to marry. You are free to marry is something that I have to continue to stress until this no longer is an issue. And speaking of Nigerians, as today's Nigerian Independence Day, hear me once, hear me twice. Hopefully this is the last time that I have to keep saying this. You have to get a proper divorce from Nigeria before you marry someone. I enter consultations sometimes and I ask someone, is this your first marriage? And then they'll say it's their first marriage. And then they'll start talking, about another person or another child. And I say, okay, well, did you marry that person's mother, whatever? And they'll say, oh yeah, but that was a marriage in Nigeria. When someone asks you, is this your first marriage? It means in your life, not in America or Nigeria or Bahamas or Ghana. It is in your life. That's number one. And number two, you have to understand that even if you might be free to marry in another country, like in Nigeria, like polygamy is not illegal, whereas it's illegal in this country. So you must terminate the first marriage. You must terminate it and terminate it properly. If you have not used a lawyer in Nigeria to terminate your court registry marriage, then you know for a fact your divorce is not valid, and that is going to affect the outcome of your VAWA case. Okay, so it is very important that you do that. This is different for customary marriage, which I talk about all the time. Customary marriage is a recognized marriage for immigration purposes here in the United States. If you're Nigerian, with customary marriages, there's frequently no record of the marriage or the divorce, other than pictures of the celebration of the where the families gather and exchange bride price. And typically, a termination is basically the return of the bride price. As long as you can document that. So if that is the type of marriage you have, then it's fine if you don't have paperwork. But if you have had a marriage that automatically results in a registry, which is what happens with most people. They do the customary and then do the court marriage, whether it's in the form of a white wedding or just a court wedding. You must have a proper divorce, okay? So that is one of the key requirements and the number one reason I would say for Nigerians that get denied from VAWA, the number one reason why they get denied. That and them not being honest in their initial visitor's visa, where they may have said they were married, but they were never really married, but someone told them, say you're married and that's the only way you're going to get a visa. So those are the number one and two reasons. But again, the number two can typically be corrected with misrepresentation fraud waiver, but the number one is really difficult to overcome. Okay, so those are the requirements of VAWA, and if you do get all those things right, you can get a 10-year green card from that. All right, let's see what else we have. Is it normal to be scheduled for an interview for both the I-130 and I-485? Yes, that is the normal thing. Almost all, not all, but almost all interviews should look like that, unless there is a shortage of staff, which we've actually seen happen. And I remember saying to the officer, "Are you serious?" But that's normal. They will typically interview you. The I-130 is basically proof of good faith marriage. Like, do you have a genuine marriage? Is this marriage a real marriage that wasn't entered into for immigration purposes? And then you also have the I-485, which is for the immigrants, basically making sure that that immigrant is admissible into the United States, i.e., they don't have any false claims to citizenship. They don't have any removal cases that stops jurisdiction. They don't have any misrepresentation issues. They don't have any criminal records that bar them from becoming, a green card holder. So both applications go in tandem. Okay. What can you do if you have a marriage fraud bar? Appeal it. If you believe that your marriage is a genuine marriage, appeal it. If you have passed the appeal window and you're still married to that person, refile and prove that your marriage is genuine. Sometimes we have clients who will come to us with a marriage fraud bar, like from a marriage-based case, and then after screening them, we determine that they are victims of VAWA, and a lot of what happened at the interview, or what USCIS observed, was as a result of abuse. In those cases, we present all the evidence proving that good faith marriage in the VAWA application, and we've been very successful with the clients that we've taken, in that regard. So those would be the options that you have. Otherwise, it is a very high penalty. So the solution is never, they said I have a marriage fraud, let me go marry somebody else. Because you might have a genuine marriage with the next person and have 3 kids, 4 kids, but USCIS is not going to let that previous, bar go. They're going to go back to it and say, prove that marriage was real. It's definitely a scary thing to get, but it's not impossible to change their opinions when you present evidence that this is a genuine marriage. Okay. Doman says, good morning. How long will the work permit take to be approved on a T visa? This is a really good question, just because the T visa rules have changed as of August 28th of this year. And honestly, Doman, I cannot answer your question, just because this new laws changed like about 30 days ago. Where basically now, in the past, we couldn't submit a 765 application with a T visa. We had to wait for them to approve the T visa, and then they will issue your work permit. But now they will issue a T visa based on a bona fide determination. A bona fide determination is new, in the T visa realm, of saying, okay, we're going to give this, and we'll give you a work permit as a result. So it's still so new that we have to actually have some precedents to speak. So I can't tell you a date, just because this was just passed in 30 days. So we need to get some back, but I anticipate that if it's similar to the U visa, it will take a couple of months, like 7, 8, 9 months. But we'll see, as time goes. Once we start getting some, I'll be able to answer that better. Okay. Harvey says, my VAWA application is addressed under my lawyer's office. I moved to a new state. Do I need to change my address, even if everything goes to the office and not to me? Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. Every time that you move, especially when you move states, it is very important that you notify USCIS for record purposes, because that is what determines jurisdiction for your adjustment of status. So if you have a VAWA application, while it's going to your lawyer's office and the approvals are going to your lawyer's office, if they do schedule you for an interview, they're going to schedule you based on the address you have on file. So if you said you lived in Florida, but now you've moved to California, they're going to schedule you in Florida, and now you're going to have to figure out how to get a flight to get to Florida. And then when you fly and waste all that money to go to Florida and get a hotel, and you get to the officer is going to be like, oh, you live in California. I don't have jurisdiction. We're going to have to send us to California. So it is very important that when you change your address, that you notify USCIS, so that they can make sure that you are in the right jurisdiction if they do schedule you for an interview. Okay. Let's see. Shayna says, how long, good morning. Is it okay to send in pictures with you and your husband, even though your son even though it's for your son's filing, but you don't have pictures of your son and your husband. Yes, because you're basically submitting that petition saying that your son is a stepson based on the marriage of you and your spouse. So proving good faith marriage will help your son get that approval. So it is absolutely okay to do that, okay? Joe Houston says, good morning, Law One, and blessed new month to you and your esteemed team. My prayer for you and the team is, may God grant to you all wisdom, strength to bring liberty to us all. God bless you. Amen. And same to you. Thank you so much. Yannick says, how long would it take for a permanent resident to petition for my over 21 unmarried child in Jamaica? Right now, I don't know actually what it is. I think it's about 7 or 8 years. Like I would have to pull up the visa October bulletin because as you guys know, this is published every month on the US visa bulletin, but I want to say it's about 7 or 8 years, but don't quote me on this. You can check the US visa bulletin yourself and then just go to family preference category and check under F2B. But I don't have it offhand. Okay. Let's see. In a diversion program, is there any chance of being approved? It's going to depend on what kind of petition and what exactly happened. Okay, I don't know. Dana and Metamorphosis. I guess you're having your own conversation. So let me skip that. How long does it take to get my work permit and social after biometrics for VAWA? Could vary depending on if you filed an adjustment of status. If you filed an adjustment of status with your application, then 4 to 9 months. A lot of people will get it within the 4 to 6.5 months window, but really the timeline is 4 to 9 months for most people. Okay. Someone's asking, what is the latest update on TV? That I just talked about that. So hopefully you heard that. If not, you can just check my timeline when I save this video. Hi, El Boogie. What's up? All right, I answered this one. Dan said, what will be the first down payment I need to pay to start my immigration process to get my green card? Please call the office, schedule a consultation. The down payment is going to depend on what you're eligible for, if you're eligible for something, and if we can take your case. So best to schedule a consultation by calling 407-995-6567. Okay. All right, let's see. How long do VAWA cases take to get approved? Right now, 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years. We had one case last week that was not expedited that got approved in 13 months, which is amazing. I just wish there's like something going on where we're going to start seeing more cases get approved in that timeline as opposed to the current timeline, because that's super short with no expedite, so, but 2 to 3 years is the norm. So I just always say to applicants who are VAWA applicants who are eligible for work permits and travel permits, at this point, just sit tight. You have a work permit, you have a travel permit, so you have the same abilities as you would a green card holder, except you cannot file for someone else, and you cannot marry while your case is pending. But these cases do take time. And no, I don't know the reason why they take time with USCIS. I mean, I have my suspicions of, based on how lengthy and the volume of these kinds of applications, they do take time to go through. It takes time even for us to prepare. So that's possibly why, but that's what the timeline is right now. Okay, another question in here. Somebody is asking, does emotional and psychological abuse, so for example, manipulation from your spouse, cheating, verbal abuse, and if you have proof because you've been hospitalized due to depression at one point, does that qualify you for VAWA? Yes, it does qualify you for VAWA. So abuse for the purpose of VAWA is not only physical abuse. it's not only someone punching you or slapping you. Abuse can be psychological, abuse can be emotional, abuse can be verbal, abuse can be financial, abuse can be sexual, abuse can be abuse of the legal system, abuse can be technological, abuse, people who are threatening to cyber expose you, or, saying bad things about you on the internet, on Facebook or YouTube, or just to character assassinate you, or, people who gaslight you, who manipulate you. These are all things that when you look at the totality of it and how it affects the human psyche and psychology, those are all things that would be considered abuse for the purpose of violence. So hopefully that answered your question. With the question as it relates to cheating, USCIS takes a stance that one occurrence, of cheating does not necessarily make someone an abuser. So for us, when we're looking at cheating, we look at the totality. Like when, I'm doing my legal analysis for a client who's, the main issue is infidelity. I'm looking, are there multiple partners? Are they putting my client at risk of an STD, or have they given my client an STD? Have they put this in my client's face in such a way that it's inhumane and it affects her, from a psychological or emotional level? Like, so these are all things that we look at to make the argument and push back. So same thing, when it comes to sometimes some people might say, oh, my spouse smokes weed, I don't like weed. USCIS will say, oh, well, that's not abuse. So we look again at the totality of what, cause and effect, basically. So it's not just about them doing this, it's the totality of what they're doing and how that affects someone psychologically or emotionally or physically, because again, physical abuse is not necessarily hitting. Physical abuse could be you've abandoned your spouse and left them in the household with no way to pay the bill, to find food, no health insurance, or that you stop your spouse from calling 911, when they have a health crisis, because you're afraid that they're going to ask them questions about what's going on in the home. So there are other things that don't necessarily have to be physical to fall under physical abuse. I do have to jump off, guys. I hope you guys do have a great week. Stay safe out there. As I said to my Nigerians on live, make sure you eat a hearty Nigerian meal today to celebrate Independence Day. And I will see you guys on my next live. If I didn't get to your question, do schedule a consultation and get a good consult on your particular case. My number is 407-995-6567. All right, guys, have an amazing